Assalamu alaikum. Today the training session is about the brain stem. The brain stem is that part connecting the brain from the spinal cord. It is consisting of three parts. In the brain, bones and medulla oblongata. So that's three parts collectively forming the brainstem from the rostral to caudal direction. We start to describe the anatomy of the medulla oblongata. We can see in the medulla oblongata is that part which begins at the level of the foramen magnum in the skull, and also can be regarded as that part which is demarcating by the upper border of the C1 vertebra. So that from the spinal cord to the medulla oblongata, we can see it is consisting in the midline structure called longitudinal medial fissure in the midline or sulcus, and on both sides of this sulcus there is a swelling. This called pyramid. For general description, the medulla oblongata is slightly broadest at the rostral direction. The pyramid is formed by the descending tract tract of the cortico-spinal region, from the cortex to the spinal cord, cortico-spinal. And this cortico-spinal region, most of its fiber decussating here to form contralateral pyramid. Lateral to the pyramid, there is another swelling here called olive. This olive is formed by the underlying inferior olivary nucleus. I will repeat: in the midline, the longitudinal medial fissure. On both sides, there is a pyramid which is formed by the cortico-spinal tract, decussation of the cortico-spinal tract, and then we have an olive on the lateral side, which is present or due to the presence of the inferior olivary nucleus. Between these two parts, we can see in this specimen, in this part, this is the pyramid and this is the olive. Between the pyramid and the olive, there is a rootlet of the hypoglossal nerve, the 12th cranial nerve. Lateral to it, there is an inferior cerebellar peduncle, which is connecting the cerebellum to the medulla oblongata. We have superior cerebellar peduncle, this part, which connecting the cerebellum to the midbrain, and middle cerebellar peduncle, which connecting the bones with the cerebellum, and the inferior cerebellar peduncle, that part connecting the medulla oblongata with the cerebellum. Lateral to this region, also we can see the rootlet of other cranial nerve. glossopharyngeal, vagus, and the accessory nerve. Here, the remnant of the this cranial nerve. Here we can see this is the medulla oblongata, and here we can see the ventral surface and the dorsal surface. This is the ventral surface and this is the pyramid, and here the olive, and between the pyramid and the olive, the rootlet of the hypoglossal nerve. Lateral to it, to the olive, or the area intervening between this olive and the dorsolateral sulcus, there is another cranial nerve, including the glossopharyngeal, vagus, and cranial part of the accessory nerve. The dorsal aspect of the medulla oblongata, or when we facing laterally, there is an area called tuberculum cinereum. Tuberculum cinereum is that part which is located lateral to the dorsolateral sulcus, which is intervening between this cranial nerve and dorsolateral sulcus. This results from the spinal tract of the trigeminal nerve, fifth cranial nerve. Now we are shifting to the dorsal aspect. On the dorsal aspect of the medulla oblongata. Sorry. Okay, we continue our session, and as I mentioned, the tuberculum cinereum is formed by the underlying spinal tract of the trigeminal nerve. The dorsal aspect of the medulla oblongata, dorsal aspect, here we can see the dorsal aspect. This is the ventral aspect of the medulla oblongata, and this is the dorsal aspect of the medulla oblongata. We can see there are two structures in the near the posterior-median fissure of the medulla oblongata. These include the fasciculus gracilis and the fasciculus acuminatus. This fasciculus gracilis and acuminatus due to underlying gracile tubercle and acuminate tubercle respectively. Also, we can see the posterior part of the medulla oblongata forming the lower half of the structure, or what we call it a rhomboid fossa. Rhomboid fossa. Here we can see this is the rhomboid fossa. The lower part of the rhomboid fossa. The rhomboid fossa is formed by both pons and the medulla oblongata. Regarding the pons, this is the pons. We can see it is a convex structure which containing a striated-like structures or tract or fibers. Here we can see this is striated fiber, which is also containing many numerous pontine nucleus inside it, and it's connecting to the cerebellum through this middle cerebellar peduncle. Middle cerebellar peduncle. Also, this transverse ridge formed by the descending cortico-pontine tract. this corticopontine tract descend on the same side of the bones, and then it is passes to opposite side to form opposite middle cerebellar peduncle. Also, we can see there is a groove in the midline here called basilar groove. Basilar groove. هذا. On the dorsal aspect, we can also see or face with the rhomboid fossa. The rhomboid fossa containing a midline sulcus called anterior, this is anterior median sulcus, and on both sides of this median sulcus there is an elevated structure called medial eminence, Lateral to the medial eminence there is a sulcus here called sulcus limitans. And on the inferior part of the medial eminence, there is an elevated area on both sides called facial colliculus. Facial colliculus is formed by looping of the facial nerve, motor part of the facial nerve, around the abducent nucleus. Also, we can see in the depth of this triangle or rhomboid fossa, there is a two triangle or hypoglossal triangle and vagus triangle. The roof of these fossa is called or by the superior cerebellar peduncle, medial part of the superior cerebellar peduncle that connecting the midbrain to the cerebellum. On the inferior aspect here, we can see an area called obex, in which there is a transmission of this region from the rhomboid fossa to the central canal of the spinal cord to be continuous through the spinal cord. Also, we can see there is here acoustic region, and also there is here a pigmentation on the lateral surface of the medial eminence, and this is represented by locus cereulus. The locus cereulus under the locus cereulus there is a patch of the colored nerve fibers, and this is called substantia urigenia. This is all about the posterior aspect of the pons and the middle oblongata. The third part of the brainstem is consisting of the midbrain. This is midbrain. We can see two across cerebral peduncle or across cerebral to cerebral peduncle, and on the posterior aspect or the roof here we can see four elevated structures called colliculi. We have a superior colliculus and the inferior colliculus. Here, superior colliculus, and this is inferior colliculus. Here we can see, clearly observe here in this specimen, superior colliculus and inferior colliculus. From the superior colliculus, we have a small structure called superior brachia, which connecting to the lateral geniculate body. This is demarcating into red color. Red color, and to the red color. Red color. And the inferior colliculus, the prolongation of it called inferior brachia, which is here you can see into the green color, green color, green color, green color. The red color and the green color. The superior colliculus is concerning with the visual activities, and the inferior colliculus is for the auditory function. This is the part or tactile part of the brainstem اللي هو midbrain. زين. We can see here a cross section here. This is the cross section through the pons, and we can see here the transverse ridge on both sides. This is forming the corticopontine, and then as I mentioned, is passes to contralateral side through pontocerebellar tract. Pontocerebellar tract. This is another cross section through the pons. And not all specimens are clear here. Midbrain consisting of tactile part and tegmental part. And here we can see the region separated by the substantia nigra.
عادي ب 12 إلى 10 اكو كويز.
السلام عليكم. راح نحكي لكم على our lab today is about the brainstem, supportive about the functional, practical, anatomical aspect of the brainstem regarding our lab today. As we mentioned before, the brainstem consists of three regions, namely the midbrain, the pons, the medulla oblongata. We talk about this. The midbrain consists of two parts: the tectum region, the tegmental region, the pons, the medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata is here, the central canal. The central canal star that contains the CSF. CSF drains toward the spinal cord. In the brainstem, situated multiple cranial nerves, namely the oculomotor, the trochlea, the trigeminal, the abducent, the facial, the vestibulocochlear, the hypoglossal, the 9th, 10th, and 11th cranial nerve, namely the glossopharyngeal, the vagus, and the cranial accessory nerve, cranial root of accessory nerve. Any defect in the function of the brainstem may affect these cranial nerves that we mentioned. Namely, the oculomotor and the trochlea are related to the movement of the eyeball. So the patient may face different clinical defect based on anatomical defect. Namely, the oculomotor, so-called the down and out pupil, down and out pupil. The trochlea, the patient will suffer from what we call vertical diplopia. The trigeminal has multiple functions related to its region. As we mentioned, that the trigeminal has four nucleus and the trigeminal nerve are related to the sensation of the face and has multiple roots, the ophthalmic, the maxillary, and the mandibular divisions. So the patient may face defect regarding these function of the root of the trigeminal. Mainly, the ophthalmic and maxillary division are related sensory only. There is only sensory defect. Where the mandibular division, it is a mixed nerve, consists of sensory and motor root. The motor root will suffer from the muscles of mastication, may affect mostly the motor root of the mandibular division of the trigeminal nerve. When we talk about the abducent, also related to the muscles of the eye, abduction of the eyeball. So the patient may face convergent sequent. Regarding the face, the facial nerve has multiple clinical problems related to anatomical defect regarding the root either or the branches of the facial. One of them, the Bell's palsy, ما يسمى بالبيلز palsy, lower motor neural lesion regarding to the facial nerve. The vestibulocochlear, these nerves are associated with the function of the ear, the balance and the hearing. So any defect in this region will affect these nerves. From medial to lateral, these are the abducent, the two roots of facial and the vestibulocochlear nerve. The hypoglossal nerve related to the function of the muscles of the tongue. And the tongue will deviate to the ipsilateral side of lesion when the hypoglossal nerve injured. These are the glossopharyngeal, the vagus and the cranial accessory nerve. These mainly related to the muscles of the pharynx and the palate. So the patient will suffer from situation related to the swallowing of the food. Will face the problem. إضافة إن الvagus ينطي multiple visceral branches to the internal abdominal and thoracic viscera. It's a huge nerve. Arises from the cranial region, but associated with many functions in the body. This is the pyramid, and this is the olive. The pyramid contains the lateral corticospinal tract. So any defect in the function, either CBA or tumor, will affect these functions, and the patient will suffer from what we call the paralysis, lower motor neuron, upper motor neuron paralysis of contralateral side. Why? Because the lateral corticospinal tract may be decussated in this region. Then the medulla will continue to form the spinal cord. At this junction of the fourth ventricle and the central canal, this may obstruct, so what we call the obstructive hydrocephalus, related to the defective function of the CSF that passes through the central canal of the medulla. When we pass to the pons, you see the pons has a peduncle, has called what we call the central or the middle peduncle of the brainstem, of the cerebellum. And the inferior peduncle is attached to the posteriorly to the olive, and the superior peduncle will attach to the midbrain. Three peduncles that support the cerebellum to the brainstem. This region, namely the victim of the brain, of the midbrain, they contain two colliculi, the superior colliculus and the inferior colliculus. This region associated with the visual reflexes, the motor action that performed by the body that's stimulated by visual experience. This related to the auditory reflexes. When we hear something huge like explosion, you will move on from your position, involuntary. When you see a huge explosion or you hear a huge explosion, فالانفجار صوت عالي تسمع راح تفز بمكانك، فهي يسموها visual and auditory reflexes are related mainly to the function of this region, the superior colliculus and the inferior colliculus. So this is the crus cerebri. The crus cerebri also contain the fiber that descend from the cerebral cortex we mentioned. the corticospinal tract. So we may injure here or may injure the pyramid. It's important to know, either from CVA or tumor that affected this region, or any pathology, the corticospinal tract will affect because it passed through this region, mainly the carcerebri and the pyramid. So this is a short preview about the function and the functional aspect of the brainstem and the defect that may occur, and we link it to the proper anatomical and then we link the anatomical defect to the clinical defect that may face the patient based on anatomical positioning of the structure of the brainstem. Thank you. شكرا جزيلا.